Another significant aspect of the 17th century is that it's the era in which Enlightenment thinking begins to develop. The Enlightenment is a complex movement that we can offer as a time frame of some time between about 1650 until about 1800. So roughly a 150-year-long movement, beginning with traditionally René Descartes standing at the beginning and the philosopher Immanuel Kant at the end. As I've said, this is not a unified, coherent movement, but rather a stream of thoughts, a complex interaction of various thinkers that have within themselves a variety of disagreements, along with significant overlaps. Enlightenment thinking has three key markers that are also significant for how it interacts with and informs Christianity. The first marker is the category of reason. And here it's a belief in the power of reason to understand the nature of humanity and to understand the nature of the world. And part of what's significant here is the way in which the category of reason is shifting out of a Christian-informed category to a more secular-informed category. Whereas before, for Christians, reason is a way of making sense of human experience and is seen as analogous to ways of operating that God also has, that for humans to be created in the image and likeness of God is for humans to be able to reason and to operate intellectually. Now reason comes to mean something more like critical thinking about existing models of things, so the interrogation of the systems of knowledge we have in order to create and expand new forms of knowledge. So reason now produces new forms of knowledge, whereas before, in a Christian context, reason could be seen as a deeper reflection on the knowledge that already exists. They're not necessarily contradictory, but they have differing points of emphasis. So it's important to see that whatever reason might have been for a person like Anselm or Aquinas now has a different sensibility to it as we move into the 17th century. Another marker of Enlightenment thinking is skepticism. It's a skepticism, a kind of wariness, not taking things on face value, but this interrogation of them. They're aimed at institutions, whether political institutions, religious institutions, received ways of thinking about things. This is informed by this encounter that Europeans are having with new lands. If we discover new species, new peoples, new languages, new geological realities, then what else don't we know? And what ought we to ask about the world around us? And so then also scientific inquiry develops, and we'll get to that in a minute. So what the corollary to skepticism then is a confidence in human progress, that either by the power of human perception and intellection, if we can ask questions of things, then we can create new ways of knowing and we can actually improve our lives. And a religious cast, this can also give rise in Christian thinking to a confidence that God providentially will ensure that humanity always progresses to the higher ideals that God has for it. That there could be a moral perfectibility of society, just as Enlightenment thinking and science is providing a material perfectibility of society. We're going to continue to explore that idea in future videos. A third marker of Enlightenment thinking is the rise of science and the rise of scientific thinking. Standing at the beginning of this is the English scientist Francis Bacon, who writes a treatise called Novum Organum, in which he helps to develop the modern scientific method. So what Bacon and others do is begin to reject a prior understanding of the world as received, and begin to develop a hierarchy of really perceiving the world and understanding it at its fundamental building blocks through methods of experiment, the development of theories out of those experiments, and then the development of laws after those theories have been tested. And then this establishes a new model for understanding how physical reality operates. So our contemporary scientific disciplines of physics and biology and chemistry and many others develop out of the development of this scientific method. One of the things that this does is it moves theology out of the category of science. If you read Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologica, his first question is whether theology is a science. And really his question is whether theology is a system of knowing. And Aquinas says, yes, of course it is. It's a system of knowing. But now that science is being moved into a formalized, verifiable investigation of physical reality, the question is, can theology do the same kind of thing? What is verifiable in a theological method in terms of objective observed events? One of the outcomes of all of these forms of Enlightenment thinking that we've explored here is that there is new discourses that are going to emerge in Christianity that adapt some of these Enlightenment modes of discourse. One is the rise of biblical scholarship, which will begin to question unscientific narratives and worldviews. So whether it is a simple six-day model of creation, or the parting of the Red Sea, or acts of healing, the resurrection itself, the ascension of Jesus, this will all there'll now be a push to interpret these biblical narratives and events in a scientific mode that will be perceived as undermining traditional Christian teaching. This then will also lead to other forms of revisiting doctrine, and especially questions around the nature of Jesus Christ, the nature of the virgin birth, the nature of the resurrection, Trinitarian realities. So the Enlightenment is going to begin to inform Christianity as well, and we still are feeling the after effects of the development of the Enlightenment. So those are some quick key markers for thinking about the Enlightenment. In our next video, we're going to walk through some significant Enlightenment thinkers and think about the effects that they have.